Continuing on with this brief series on digital transformation, I'd like to suggest here a simple checklist that we can use that's based around the idea of services. For those who are familiar with it, this is somewhat based on or connects with the ITIL service model from version 3 ITIL, but it doesn't matter if you're not familiar with it. The first part of this checklist then is service strategy. If we're going to implement both the digital transformation itself and everything within that transformation, what are the services that match up to the changed organisational strategy? How do those services link in with strategic change as a whole? Second one is about service design, particularly about designing for changing needs. We need to design for change rather than thinking that this transformation is a one-off. Most real transformations take a significant amount of time and are often very iterative. Parts of them will change radically as we go along through the process, so that we need to design for change rather than to some arbitrary future state. Another one is about service transitions. We need to be designing in such a way that we can do all changes and do any changes without disrupting anything that's running now. We need to be really clear about how the transition is going to work, how the migration is going to work, where the changes take place, and how we can smooth over the transitions that are needed. Another one is about service operations, about how are we going to monitor service delivery? How are we going to keep track of how service operations work, how service delivery is working, whether it's actually working properly at all? What metrics do we need? What records do we need? Those are things we need to watch. Another area is about service improvement. How are we going to improve services? Now we're keeping track of collecting information back from our service delivery and service operations. How are we going to use that to support continual improvement? What do we need to make continual improvement possible? Another one is about service value management. How do we keep on track to organisational values, to the story, the enterprise story? Because we need to ensure that we don't allow it to become technology driven, that we don't allow it to be driven by things like cost cutting. It needs to be about a deliberate intent that matches with the broader story in which the organisation operates, the broader shared enterprise. So how are we going to keep track of values and alignment to values? Reliability, certainty, predictability, sustainability, satisfaction, all of those themes. How are we going to improve and connect to those values? And finally, most digital transformations will handle and simplify certain areas, but will add complexity in others. How are we going to manage the complications and complexities of the transformation itself and of those continuing processes of transformation? There will always be things that we don't expect. How are we designing for those rather than simply hoping that they won't occur? That's a checklist that we can use for digital transformations, thinking of it in terms of services.